All right. Hello. Let's get started. Hello and welcome to Ithra Theatre Society's online sessions. So just a little brief. We run these sessions on a monthly basis, and we've previously had chats with theater producers, with comic actors and script writers, and we've also covered universities and theater at universities. So we covered different aspects of theater and theater making. So I am Hadeel Mufti. I am a theater coordinator here at Ithra. And today we have a meeting with a chat with the lovely Lana Komsany. Welcome, Lana.
Ahlan, how are you? Welcome.
Ahlan. So just a brief to the listeners is that once we're done, we're going to have 10 minutes at the end for any Q&A. If you would like to ask your questions, there is a Q&A tab in the bottom. So you could put your questions up on there and then we can address them at the end. Great. So welcome, Lana.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm honored. Shukran for having me. I was really looking forward to this meeting today.
Great. We're so happy to have you with us today. So just for the listeners, Lana is a Saudi director from Jeddah, and she has a bachelor degree in theater from the USA. She's also a full-time artist. She is mashallah, she's a theater director, she's a script writer, an actress, and a theater coach. She is passionate about art in all its forms, merging all the different styles of performances, but unifying your work as contemporary theater. Am I right?
That's right. That's
great.
Right.
So let's start. So Lana, I was hoping if you could just tell us a little bit about yourself, about your current role, your education.
Okay. I was lucky to live in other countries than Saudi Arabia, so I got an education from different places. Amongst that was theater. Well, I got to practice theater as well in my free time. So as you said before, it is a passion. I really love it. It's been with me since my childhood. Alhamdulillah, my parents supported it as well and made sure I'm exposed to theater in all its forms and performance in general. So I ended up here in Saudi Arabia, back to my country. And for a long time, I gave workshops to children. And those workshops were very important in where I am right now, because I got to put on productions all the time with children. I thought it was very challenging to work with little kids and theater as well. What was interesting is I witnessed firsthand that there were so many life skills that were necessary in theater, like, team building and working part of the team, problem solving, crafting, writing, directing. There's just so many things with a lot of skills. And I practiced them for a long time, got all the skills that I needed to quit my day job and basically do this full time. I started a company called iStage. So I stage theater and film, but theater is like my main passion in life. And that's it. Yeah, I've put on some productions. Alhamdulillah, they were very successful.
Yeah. I think I have a few photos I'd like to share here. Okay, so what do we have here? Could you tell us about it?
Yes, we have Shara al-Azwa. Shara al-Azwa was part of the Jeddah season 2019, in Jeddah Tarikhiyya, the historical Jeddah. And this is very close to my heart because when I was approached to do something in historical Jeddah, I got emotional right away because both my parents were born there. So my grandparents were there. All the stories that I grew up with from my grandma was revolving around that. So a lot of the personalities are inspired by family members and people that lived in the street. The title speaks for itself. It's Shari' al-Uzwa. Uzwa means togetherness, or having a back, you know.
Oh, okay. Carry on.
And Shari', well, the reason why behind Shari' was, it was street theater. It was a street play, meant to be out in the street, part of this fa'aliyah that's happening. There's a lot of passerbyers, and it was there. It was very successful.
Great. What other shows have you done in the past?
I had Ana Imra'a, which is I Am Woman, also very close to my heart. It's something that's been brewing for years and years and years. I wrote the script and then started developing the script with other writers in the Arabic language. It's basically a bunch of sketches or monologues that represent women in general, not any woman in the world, but specifically Saudi women and their struggles in their daily life. No specific stories, very general Saudi stories of how women are basically here.
Great.
Yeah.
Wow. A variety of shows you've done. So that comes to my next question. I would like you just to briefly explain the different types of the theater spaces, things that you've used, or if you could tell us, just give us a brief.
Okay. There are many types of theater. At the end of the day, people call it stage or theater, but there's different types. There's the proscenium stage, which is the, let's say, classical or the one that's already pre-built. It has a arch, and the stage itself is deeper than other stages where there are, in Arabic we call them kawalis, or backstage. Usually you see those types of stages in opera houses or in big ballets.
It's the typical stage that you usually see, that
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Yeah. There's the bigger versions, and there's the smaller versions as well.
But it's still the same layout. You have the auditorium on one end, and you've got the stage on the other.
That's right. Right.
The
fact that there's an arch which hides a lot of stuff that's happening in the back, like whether it's the chicken wire, which is dangling from on top, or
could you tell us, what other stages do you have?
There's in the round, or a bigger version of that would be the arena, and that's a stage in the middle surrounded by chairs. The arena is usually bigger, the in the round is smaller. Not necessarily a round circular stage. It's mostly square, but that's the basic concept of it. There's black box, which is a studio type stage. It looks like a set room or a big studio, mostly painted black, sometimes silver or gray. But it serves the purpose of a very blank space. And this is my favorite kind of space to work in and create theater, because it's very versatile. You get to do a lot of stuff with it. What else is there? There's the thrust stage, or the open stage, where it kind of extends into the audience in a way. This is usually built. You find this in shows.
It's shibh jazira, you could call it.
Exactly.
Out into the audience. Three sides out into the audience. Great.
What else?
What about when there is actually no stage and the actors are interacting with
that's street theater. You get to perform.
Immersive. It's very immersive. It's nice. Breaking the boundaries of theater and doing something.
Of course, that's what contemporary is, and that's what's fun for me at the end, because when I get to do contemporary, I get to mix a lot of styles of theater. ما في عرف معين, ما في شيء I have to abide to. You know what I mean? It's like free imagination. Whatever's in my head, I can literally put on stage. Street theater is a very interesting form of theater.
Great. So could you just tell us about the purpose of street theater and
Well,
the objective behind it.
okay, well, the way it started, or if we go back and trace it back in the day, it was to create awareness in the crowd.
Yes,
Um,
like activist shows.
not necessarily activists. It could be anything.
Could be anything.
You know, it was just a form of voicing out things, and that's where
Yeah.
most people would be in the street.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that ruhi back in time? You know what I mean?
Like commedia dell'arte a little.
It could be that, or it
Yeah.
could be you know, something that, you know, they need to, you know, get people aware of, if it was like, for example, a pandemic in our situation.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean,
Mhm.
and of course, you know, it's developed with the years where it's incorporated in many functions. It could be a فعالية that's completely ترفيهية, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where the street plays put on there, سواء they were مجهزة from the فعالية or other people performing it. It's the street.
Yeah.
Everybody's allowed to the street. You can perform. You can talk to the crowd. People can interact with you. So imagine if it's an actual script written and designed in a way where you know and every interaction is kind of calculated.
Wow.
It's like a movement in a way. It's revolutionary, and بالنسبة لي, I really enjoy that kind of theater.
Well, that's great. So what are the logistics behind running a street performance?
Okay, well, first thing would be the audience. Okay, that's an important thing. So if it's something planned for a street performance, first thing I would want to put down is to make it's in an area that there's a lot of traffic, foot traffic.
Okay.
Why? Because the main purposes of it is to have those people stop and start watching the play. The audience, the location is very important. The projection of voice.
I was about to suggest.
Yeah, like it's very different. It's a different ambient. It's a different has a different anatomy.
Yeah.
حتى the fundamentals of theater in acting تحتاج to be even blown up even more. لأنه you're outside. It's not a controlled environment.
Yes.
You might be able to control the little small space around you, but other than that, it's out in the open in the street.
Yeah.
So it's very challenging and interesting. So it's just a different type of performing and theater and rehearsals and all that, you know?
That sounds great. Well, I guess you have experience in running street theater. Could you tell us about your experience?
Okay, well, I've done a couple of street performances in the university campus. So that's also considered street, where you'd be standing outside our, you know, classes and just kind of performing for whoever's outside. I acted in one of those. It was very interesting. As I said, challenging for the actors, because the weather fluctuates, you know, sounds can interrupt you. So you need to be, you know, very aware where, okay, maybe now I need to improvise because they didn't get it, they didn't hear it, or maybe I need to repeat it again. So there's a different kind of teamwork going on where all the actors are very vigilant, and حتى stage managers اللي هم they help with the play, they're very vigilant because it might change right away حسب الانvironment اللي احنا فيها. I did شارع العزوة is considered street theater as well.
Okay.
It was very nice, very interesting. I was lucky to find an empty piece of land. It's an empty lot embedded in between old buildings for historical Jeddah. So it was really interesting. I was very happy to find that spot لأنه اللي ساعدني the set. I created a set that was already there. It was in the background, and the lights, you know, illuminated the old buildings and created that شارع عزوة اللي I created, you know, and it was just an extension of the streets people walked on.
That sounds great. And I guess the scenery also worked out for the purpose of the show, like the location of the show.
the seating.
So I feel like the ready scenery that you already had worked with the show that you were doing.
Yes, exactly. That's part of the logistics when you're planning something. It's like if I'm in a normal theater, I'd be, planning.
You got to just build it from scratch.
Exactly.
Whereas if you're out there, you just use what's out there.
Exactly. So it's important to scout a nice or something that fits the purpose of what I'm creating, basically. Yeah.
So we kind of went into this a little bit before, but could you tell us, like, what are the different types of theatrical performances that can be done as street theater?
Okay, so anything. It could be literally anything. It's the street. There's, as I said, it's usually part of a function happening already. So there's already traffic. There's already bustle going on. So you just want to add on to that. And I mean, you could from, you could start from juggling into actual dialogues from balconies. You know what I mean? It depends on what you see and what you need. You know what I mean? And I guess that's what I like about my job, and especially street theater, because it's always challenging on how am I going to make sure somebody walking down the street, part of a function, would actually stop and give me the next 15 minutes of his time. You know what I mean? It's an investment, you know what I mean? I could مثلا أقدم something من الشبابيك والبلكونات and I'll just have the audience looking up all the time. It could be a dance performance, it could be a marching band, it could be a walking like circus, mini musical kind of, anything. A flash mob maybe, which is when you'd be يعني قاعدة في أمان الله كده زي ما تقولي فجأة everybody around you starts singing and dancing and you're like the only one sitting. That's called a flash mob. So it's very versatile. There's so many things you can do, and there's so many things you can take, mix and match together and create a new form of something that hasn't been done before. يعني a different kind of a performance. People walk on buildings كمان يعني.
That's a type of street theater.
Yeah, exactly.
Anything.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to bring us back to the actual what you called a proscenium theater, a proscenium's arch type of stage.
Yes.
So would you say, just comparing street theater that you can do in the street with theater that you do on stage?
It's very different من التقديم when it comes to putting on the actual show. But if we're going to go to the pre-production, it's very similar. So it's not the same steps in how you put on a production, which is making sure what the set is and sorting your costumes and whether they're props or things in the hands, and then visiting the dialogue and rehearsing that over and over and over. Even if it's something improvised, there's I belong to that school of stick to the script. ما أدري أحس إنه this is my opinion يعني بس إنه if you stick to the script, it gives you much more room to improvise within the brackets of what you have scripted. بس برضو there's also comedy, يعني هذا شيء ثاني يرجع how to improvise. المهم الstage is more systematic ساعتها. بس أنا to me يعني I've done it a few times where خلاص صار challenge بالنسبة لي. How am I going to figure out inner workings of مو مثلا الممثلين اللي هم الcast. It's يعني everything can be staged خلاص these days. You know what I mean? It's very interesting. It's just how you look at it. فاهمة؟ In my head there is a difference between street theater and a proscenium theater, for example. But as a creator of street theater, there's always a proscenium theater that's خيالي in my head that I'm trying to create in an open space. You might not see it, I will see it, or we will see it, the crew working right then and there. إحنا حنكون عاملين الأبعاد where, you know, if we're using extra, you know, sound with speakers, for example. So I think we're going to figure out where
everything goes.
Everything would be. In a way, it kind of is very مبني عليه.
Yeah.
So the proscenium's the base. And
I see where you're going. Yeah.
And then every theater type is basically kind of duplicated in a way based على الأصل اللي عندنا اللي هو البروسينيوم, which is the arch and the curtains and the coulisses and the apron where, you know, the orchestra kind of plays music if it's a live video show. فيتغير هو بس it changes shape.
So for you, what do you think is more challenging as a director?
Street theater for sure. لأنه prosceniums are beautiful. They're safe for me. You know, if I know I'm like putting on a performance in a proscenium theater, خلاص أنا مطمنة. I know what's there. You know what I mean? It's I don't want to say easy work, but خلاص you kind of have certain parameters. أبعاد معينة you're working with, and they're kind of, you know, and you have things to help the performance work, like the chicken wire, اللي من فوق, الكواليس اللي هي depth that it has, so it allows you to play with sets and whether they're moving ولا لا. Street theater is much more challenging if it's a big performance that has props and costumes and a big cast, for example. Like I did in Shadow, that's why I had 100 people as a cast. Yeah, it was like a big street.
Wow.
Yeah.
Right. Well, okay, so say you want to put on a street theater, a street performance. How do you go about writing a script for that?
It depends. It depends on where am I putting this performance and why. As I said at the beginning of the meeting, that usually street theater kind of like works as awareness, as a tool for awareness. The language needs to be different than a classic play, for example, because you're talking to everybody that's there. So you need to make sure, what am I saying and to whom? So not every type of theater could work out in the street. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Especially if it's scripted, especially if they're words. You know, you don't want people to feel intimidated that, oh, this is way above us, or you know what I mean? You want to reach out. You want to entertain as well. So you need to put in consideration ages of people that are in this. It's a street, you know, so every age is there, you know. It needs to be current and relevant to the culture that you're preparing the script for. يعني شارع العزوة, I did it in complete Hijazi, and it was all about القيم that was there back in the day. So most of the people that live there or are visiting Jeddah التاريخية are either from it or know somebody, and they are aware of all these stories. دائما تسمعي الناس, they say الزمن الجميل. So I revisited الزمن الجميل basically. It was nice. It was familiar to people. As I said, also you need to engage the audience. There. So as I'm putting on something for 20 minutes, I need to make sure it's designed and it serves the purpose. إنه الناس هتوقف 20 minutes. It's interesting enough. فتخيل if you have a 45-minute play and in the street as well. You know what I mean? It needs to be even more that way.
That's great, because it comes to my next question, which is when I see street theater, like there's always that sense of interaction between performers and the audience. Could you tell us about that? Is it just the interaction between spectators and actors or performers?
So street theater allows you to mix between forms of theater. You know what I mean? So it's not, يعني that's maybe a little bit of the immersive كمان يعني.
So it's a type of street theater that
street theater.
Yeah.
ايوه بالضبط. وبعدين يعني
Yeah.
والحلو فيه انك you can mix and match, so it's a certain type, different types. You know, you're introducing people to different types of theater.
Okay.
You're entertaining them. You're sometimes teaching them something they don't know. You know what I mean? You're
Yeah.
incorporating, you're entertaining them. You're bringing them in. You're exposing families to a new form of entertainment, basically. ما يعني it's the street. هذه هي الفكرة إنك أنت you've got all types of people in the street, so
Yeah.
the reach is so much bigger.
Yeah.
but
You sorry. Just
an interaction بقول لك إنه it's
yeah.
important.
Yes.
عشان I think هو هذا مبني يعني that's the purpose of street theater. إنه I want to entertain and have them interact as well.
Yeah. And you also, I mean, you previously said that you could do a street show for 40, 45 minutes. And the question is, how would you keep the attendees engaged, you know, and attract them to the show for المدة?
Okay, well, attract them would be برضو شوية marketing, and that's, you know, a part of the planning. And okay, is it part of a function ولا هي كده لوحدها? So how would I want to market for it?
Okay.
If it's part of a function, then maybe if I can incorporate or have other people in the function collaborate with, you know, pushing people towards where the play is, maybe by having flyers or, you know, putting some arrows and signs just to, you know, create the marketing needed outside. What was you were saying?
So it's like if you're doing a street performance. I was just looking at what are the different tactics that you would use.
Okay. Yeah. So the main thing اللي أنا يهمني as director إنه I need these people sitting or watching this for the next 20 minutes. إذا هي طولها 20 or هي 45 minutes. Okay.
Yeah.
So ما حقدر أديهم a normal dialogue that's going on كده شوية. You know, they're on their feet, they might walk away.
Yeah.
I start incorporating different styles of performance inside the play, like maybe putting singing as part of it, or engage them in a game. Change theater games اللي عندنا while the actors are performing. يعني مثلا في شارع العزوة I had a person called زيزو المعجم, and زيزو المعجم interrupted the play after every 10 minutes, and the trigger was an old word that was in Hijazi, for example, a word that people don't use now. So, you know, you'd hear the word like dahliz, for example, you know what I mean? And Zizu would jump in. All the actors on stage would literally freeze. Okay. He'd start asking people, so الدهليز, what does it mean? Is it قاع المنزل ولا قاع البحر ولا قاع الجوع, for example, you know what I mean? So people start, you know, people know this. It's a word people still use. So, you know, they'll try to answer the question. They'll say it's قاع المنزل.
Yeah.
Them candy or a lollipop, for example. And then it'll sound off. He'll go back, and then everybody unfreezes and goes back to it. You know what I mean? فهو مو بس واحد شيء تحطيه. You have to put a lot of elements. You have to mix and match, make it interesting. Make sure that whenever the audience starts feeling okay, خلاص, this is going على one وتيرة, let's change it up and give them something they didn't expect. برضو شارع العزوة, as an example, I ended it off with a flash mob of a mizmar. A mizmar is the old Jeddawi dance. So خلاص, when people thought it was over and they're getting up, all of a sudden there's a whole like mizmar coming out, you know, and there's like people from all directions coming out, starting to dance. And inviting audience to dance with them, offering them the asaya for dancing, basically.
That's nice. I like the audience inclusion.
It's nice to test the theories, you know, try different things. فعشان كده أنا to me أهم شيء in creating theater, and the longest time أحب يكون long hours, is the rehearsals. I think the more you rehearse, and the longer you rehearse, you start thinking in a team, and it becomes more creative, and you with a lot of different solutions and ways to keep it more interesting, and it's always a challenge. It's always a challenge.
That's great. I kind of like, I sense that there's a lot of collaborative work that goes on to creating something like this.
Yes.
To the scale, you know.
Yes.
Okay, so where would you say are the best spaces to run a street performance?
Okay.
I mean, do you malls, corniche?
Malls are good depending on what the purpose is. Again, it's what the purpose is. Okay, so
okay,
if I don't know, if it's more of an awareness thing these days, malls would be perfect.
Okay.
Personally, I don't prefer them. I like street corners. I like you know, something embedded within a bigger I don't know, industrial area, for example, if it's all offices, you know,
Okay.
I'm sure there's a lot of traffic. I like beach performances.
Yeah.
Those are very nice, and I feel it's more of an artsy crowd over there. Yani, I don't know. Again, I told you it's the challenge. Depending on what the space you're working with, you can literally work with any space and make it into, you know, street theater or a stage for theater in the street. But if it's part of a function, I like to scout ahead, literally walk all over the place where the function is, and try to find a place that's either like what I did for الشارع العزوة, find you know, a set within the set where I can build on that, something more spectacular than it was. I like corners because it gives you you know, movement in performing as well. You know, usually we build stages as well in open areas. So if we're building something, I like it to be higher, so people could see it from afar, even if they're not seated or standing around the theater. It's very versatile. Yani. The sky's the limit. I've always been put in situations where, like, how do you want me to work with this space? Why end up working with that space and putting on something good?
So do you visit the space earlier, and do you just, you know, just by yourself go and try to envision this performance?
Yeah, I walk around the streets, not just once, more than once. I don't try to push myself to, you know, خلاص, choose one now. I give myself time ahead of, you know, plenty of time ahead to walk around and actually feel it, you know, envision it. يعني ما أدري, this is, most directors tell you we're visual, you know, so it's always something for asana, and then we have to see it خلاص. And if I see it in that frame, this is how I'm gonna have to make it work. عشان كده بقول لك it's challenging sometimes. It's nice, it's creative, it gives you more depth to the creativity that you're working with on your normal days. يعني.
So if you want to do the show as a street theater, do you need a permit to do street theater? How does that work?
Most probably. If I'm doing it independently, I'll need more than one permit. But depending طبعا where you're doing it. Usually these يعني street theater is part of a function, فعالية that's already happening. بيصير في الإيفنت مانجمنت تيم أو الكومباني اللي هم عاملين الفعالية بيكونوا already they provided all these permits to actually put on a show, and طبعا غير ال permits, there's the script. If the script is written, you need to get that get a فسح محتوى من وزارة الإعلام, for example. There are steps to be put in consideration قبل ما you put a show on, especially in the street. Come on, but it's good to be in the safe and make sure you do your research and see what are the things, the permits and licenses that you need and just start checking your boxes to put the performance on.
Yeah, I've got this question. If anybody wants to set up a performance in the street, of course you mentioned. I mean, if it's out there, you will need lighting and sound. It's not just about the performers, but it's also about the the things that make the show a show. When it comes to putting lighting and sound and putting that in the street, how does that work? I mean, when it's on stage, it's easy, like you said, whereas the challenge is how would you put that on the street?
Well, it depends on the location I chose. Again, we'll set whether it's أرض كده embedded ولا a corner. And طبعا that's put in consideration when we're scouting for this place.
Okay.
That's one of the things we are vigilant of. And okay, maybe this corner would work. لأنه there's 2 street lamps right there. So you start looking for things that you can incorporate that's already there. Whether it's set ولا بالذات lighting مثلا. فدايما if it's on the street, فين street lamps. That's the first thing we look for.
Okay.
Sometimes, okay, maybe we need something bigger. Let me take this corner instead of this corner because I can also put some additional lighting. You know what I mean? الحلو في الستريت إنه there's streets and there's buildings. So also choosing something that has some buildings around it, maybe shorter buildings where you can mount the lights on top, on top. Again, it's no structure stage, so it's how you see it in your head. بس مهم انك انت you see what is already there that I can work with.
Yeah.
That's why it's important you visit the place more than once and think of these logistics before finalizing it. Consulting with technicians as well is very important because even if I want to put some additional lighting, I need to figure out how and where, and if there's a generator and where would the generator be, and do we want it to be visible or not, and there's a lot of technical things in that. بس يعني مهم إنه يكون مثلا في حتة فيها نور already.
Okay. Yeah, and just use it to the advantage.
And just try to incorporate that, add on it, or just use that, or be lucky if it's a full moon. There's so many ways. Yeah.
Do you prefer to do these shows in the morning or evening? Just out of curiosity.
Here in Saudi Arabia, definitely.
Yeah, definitely in the evening. Or في الشتاء, you can just do it. Yeah.
يعني maybe في الشتاء. I've never really tried. I think it'd be interesting. بس هو ليش نقول evening? There's more room to put lights in and effects.
Make it more theatrical.
Make it more theatrical. It kind of serves the purpose. But برضو people have put on shows in the street in the daytime.
Yeah.
Nothing will stop us.
Great. So, well, apart from Corona, so that comes to my next question. Yeah. So with وضع الكورونا, have you found ways to carry on with doing a street performance, but regarding safety and taking on precautions?
Well, I haven't yet, but I believe.
Are there ways to carry on street performances?
يعني الحمد لله few regulations واضحة, and people are very active in activating these regulations. ففي التباعد, the social distancing, just being afar from each other. Or, it's like what happens in cinemas now. If the capacity is 100, then we want to take in less people, and it's the same way if it's in the street. We want to have organizers within the crew or the people that are putting on the show to make sure that there are distance, maybe stickers on the ground, or like
I was about to say
or there's so many ways to help people be aware where to stand and to keep the distance. I think honestly, putting it on the street after the pandemic is actually very smart because it's an open air stage, you know what I mean? So you're not worried about having a lot of people cooped up. But alhamdulillah, yani it's not just us that, you know, whether anybody who's putting on a show, حتى people are very helpful and understanding, لأن خلاص, this is our life.
This is the case. Yeah.
Yeah, this is the case. And yeah, any stickers here and there would serve the purpose. Maybe ropes. I'm sure there's so many innovative ways to also kind of design how the audience will stand that we can think of. But the challenging was, I think it's doable.
Yeah. Great. So you have done street plays in Jeddah. Have you done anything in Riyadh or Sharqiya?
I'm not in Sharqiya. I've done something similar to it. It has the tabi' of street, but it's inside a convention. It was part of 1001 Invention, Ma'rifa. And I did the Jeddah one and the Riyadh one. So again, it's a big exhibition. There's passerbyers that are visiting the exhibition, اللي هي ألف اختراع. But there were impersonators. You would walk through and see Ibn al-Haytham and Haytham and Abbas ibn Farnas and Fatma Shahriya, and they'd actually talk to you and they'd perform, and then all of a sudden there'd be an actual skit between this guy and that guy, and they're them and the audience are them, but they're in character the whole time they're in the exhibition. So that's also a form of street theater.
And you directed all that?
I trained and directed them, yeah. It was mostly improvised, but we did a lot of character development. فهي الفكرة إيش؟ أنت you're not محمد الممثل, you're Abbas ibn Farnas the minute you walk in and you're in costume. So anybody who talks to you, you're Abbas ibn Farnas, and you've got this scripted stuff to say, and then it's up to him to say whatever he wants to say based on what he's receiving from the audience interacting with them. But he's Abbas ibn Farnas. He's in character.
That sounds great. That sounds cool.
It's very cool. It's very cool. Also, there's a set going on. You know, it's an exhibition. And there's set and there's smoke and there's an intro. So, have you seen it? Have you visited?
I haven't myself. No, I haven't.
When I went and visited as a visitor, I got the same. I got goosebumps because it's like, this is what I built up for, you know. the introduction film حق ألف اختراع, and then the screen opens بعد ما هو يحكي على the golden ages and how amazing the golden ages was and all these scholars and معرف إيه, and you get so inspired. The screen opens and splits in half, and then there's haze and smoke and all these characters built and dressed in these clothes and fabrics and talking in a different tongue. And you walk through the exhibition and all this is happening and you're just in the golden ages, basically.
Wow.
It's very nice, yeah.
Would you ever do that again? Or is it, I'd like to see that. Really
I'd love to do that. Well, it's not to me. But, we had another exhibition after that, I think, when was it? 2018 maybe, or 17. They had a specific model, the same one, but it wasn't all personalities or all the scholars. It was only Ibn al-Haytham, because he was a scholar that developed how we use the camera, basically.
Okay.
Yeah, it's how that whole Qumra thing works.
But it was only one character.
It was only one character, so the whole exhibition was about this scholar and all, findings and researches. Back in the day, they weren't only scientists. He was a scientist, doctor, writer, falaki, kida.
All right, that sounds great. Okay, thank you, Lana. I think right now I'm going to open up the talk to the audience and see if they have any questions. Oh, so we do have a few questions. How do I get into theater in Saudi Arabia when I already got a BA in something else, as theater is my passion ever since I was a child? So this is for somebody, to you, director, who is interested in theater, but they don't have the degree. Can they still get into it?
yeah, if it's a passion and you know, a lot of people in theater are doing theater as a hobby. You know, you'll find the doctor and you'll find the engineer. It's all about taking that hobby or skill and practicing. You know, so you need to attend maybe theater workshops or
Mhm.
acting workshops. Acting classes. Sometimes you'll find places that offer all of them together. Um, Sometimes you need to get them individually, you know, acting alone, directing alone.
Yeah.
There's a lot of ways. Alhamdulillah, now is different than when I graduated from university. But I see an abundance of things and functions happening in the favor of theater. There's always seminars online, classes online. Uh, there's classes in your city probably if you do a specific search for them on one of the platforms that you use. Saru Malyanin. Yeah, and I would recommend you feed that passion since it was a passion since you were a child, because that's how I grew up. I used to put on shows at home.
Mhm.
فنجيب الشراشف ونحطها وألم الناس في البيت I used to make people attend these little performances I did at home. And it was a passion and I fed it. And alhamdulillah, I'm here where I am right now. Allah يوفقك إن شاء الله. You
Inshallah. Great.
find things in your city.
Yeah. Oh, I think she also asked us the same question that we addressed, which is any permits needed to have for a street theater, which you
Yes,
have already talked about.
yes.
Okay, so here we have a question. When could we see street theater festival in Saudi to show different plays from different areas? Do you think it will be successful, especially in Jeddah or Dammam?
Okay, I will answer من الآخر للأول. So yes,
Okay.
do you think it'll be successful? Yes, I think it'll be successful, especially in Jeddah and Dammam, or in Jeddah أنا in my city, and I don't visit Dammam a lot, unless it's for work. But صار في a lot of فعاليات. There's a lot of functions happening. يعني like pre-COVID, we had all these مواسم going on. There's also good news coming. دحين صار في هيئة المسرح والفنون. So there's an area, you know, there's an area out there that's specialized to make sure things like that happen outside for audiences to see. Um, so street theater festival, wallahi, interesting idea. It's not to me to tell you when, but it's good
We
that,
should.
you know, something we're talking about. لأنه حلو we test out and do festivals and functions that serve different purposes and different forms of art. أكيد يعني. I'd love to see something like that إن شاء الله يعني. When, I don't know, but I'm hopeful. Yes.
Inshallah.
Yeah.
Soon. I'm hopeful too.
Yeah, I'm very
uh,
hopeful.
great. We've got a question here, which is, did you go to drama school? That's the first part of the question. It's how can I start off as a young actor here in Saudi? I don't know where to go for acting classes. Do you know of any acting classes happening here in Saudi?
Okay. I went to drama school. It's not drama school. I studied theater in the university. It was more uh, general theater. We weren't يعني ما في اختصاص قبل ما نتخرج بالباتشلرز. كان الاختصاص أسويه بعد الباتشلرز.
Mhm.
So I studied everything in theater, من script writing, the stagecraft, the directing, you name it, we did it. So I've got all the fundamentals down. Acting classes, yes, there is in Saudi Arabia. I would speak on the behalf of Jeddah. If there's a lot of acting classes and acting coaches out there. مع الكوفيد a lot of people do stuff online. بس again إذا أنت دورت يعني كتبت في البلاتفورم مين لما حتلاقي أحد يقول لك this person and this person. I know a couple of people here in Jeddah that give classes. طبعا after the pandemic دحين everybody's trying to go back to classes for public inshallah soon. If it's مني everybody will know because I'll have دعاية. بس في كمان MBC Academy. People are قاعدين they're putting applications in, they actually offer برضو classes, and one of them is acting classes. في منها acting تمثيل. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Lana. See if there's any more questions. I think we covered the questions.
Great.
All right. Well, I would want to say a big, big thank you for your time. I really benefited from this chat with you today. And I would love to go out there and do a street performance myself, like just get people together and build something.
I'll call you for the next one. You come for the auditions, and hopefully you'll get it.
Inshallah, inshallah.
Inshallah.
And you should even do one هنا في الشرقية.
والله يا ريت. I'd love to. I'd love to. Really, honestly, يعني I've always been a fan of the Eastern province. فلا يعني I've visited a couple of times before. Inshallah soon. خلاص, back to normal. Now we'll start, you know.
Yeah. Very soon, inshallah.
Yeah.
Yes. أهلا وسهلا. We'd love to have you.
Thank you. I'd love to be there. Well, it would be my honor, inshallah.
Thank you so much, and thank you for today. And thank you to all the listeners listening in. Thank you for coming and participating in the chat. Well, I just want to bid you a good night and thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right. A big, big thank you. Yalla.
Yalla,
Goodbye.
Bye.